Okay, so we're back with day 3, voice activation. We're going to talk about love languages. And the importance of this is so that we know how we want to be loved and we can love ourselves in that way and also teach others how to love ourselves. And so it's very important, but we got this out of a book. And so Kyle will talk about the book.
Gary Chapman wrote a book called The Five Love Languages, and before that, it wasn't really a concept, from what I've read, and counselors and psychologists have really latched onto this idea and started spreading it, and it's got a lot of a big foothold now in the kind of psychology community because there's this kind of epidemic of crumbling relationships, and what they found is that people have these needs or wants, and they get them, they learn them or whatever, and just ways that they need to be shown that that somebody else loves them.
Yeah, so like he put them into categories, right? So that we could swallow the information, because we have we're very good at overcomplicating things and then simplifying them to a point where they're not effective. And so it's not just in relationships, it's in households, right? Like it's an epidemic of, this lack of attention and showing up for people in an intimate way and teaching people about love. As we move through, the expansion of civilization, we get rid of all the stresses that we used to focus on. And so through each generation, we get to rediscover, different levels of our needs and how we can fill those.
Right.
And so I'm sure that if you're watching this video, at some point in time, you have noticed that, you're not getting what you need and you don't know what it is. And so boiling it down to these 5 love languages makes it really simple to kind of, read and check off the boxes of what works for you and what doesn't. And so I'm going to go into them and then we can explain them if we need to. So the first one is time. And that's going to be, Kyle and I spending time together. Whatever we're doing, we want to be together. And the second one is acts of service. That would be me asking Kyle, or Kyle just offering to go and get the oil changed in my car.
Yeah,
without me having to do, or cooking dinner.
Anything that saves you things that matter to you, or just that you would normally do for yourself or have done for yourself in the past.
Yeah, and so it's like, an opportunity to delegate stuff that needs to be done and, trusting the other person to get it done, or them taking the initiative to get it done. It doesn't really matter how it's done, but it's Kyle taking on that role to accomplish it, I guess. Then we go into gifts. Gifts are pretty self-explanatory. Yeah.
Right. But it does drive home, the fact that it is one of the languages. I think, people often think of gifts as time for special occasions or whatever, but this is a gift that shows your love, not a gift for an occasion. So it's differentiated there, where you would just, it's instead of getting flowers to apologize, it's getting flowers to show somebody you love them, acting proactively rather than reactively. And, it's important to distinguish that.
Yeah, because it's a way to live, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're someone who identifies with gifts being your love language, then you will look for gifts in your life, and lots of things you'll kind of chalk it up as a gift that the other person may not have, intended for it to be, but that's where you're at in your headspace, and so that's important. The next one is words of affirmation. And so that looks like reaffirming not just compliments, but letting someone know like how far they've come and where they're at, and encouragements.
Yeah, there's also just, simplistically telling someone you love them frequently. Not expecting them to know it, because as we've talked about several times, we can come up with all kinds of stories, and if we don't have an explanation for them, then we'll make up our own.
Yeah, and so the last one is touch. Sorry, I was like, oh my God, we missed one. The last one's touch, and that seems pretty,
Yeah, it's the intention behind your touch can be important though, because it's kind of like a good example is like the difference between you massaging and me massaging. I mean, my intention is maybe there, but it doesn't always feel that good because I'm not a professional and you get massages all the time. So at the same time, like I have to learn, you know, because I want to, how to do that better if that's going to be the way I show touch. You know, there are other ways. I'm just saying that's an example of why, of creating awareness and space for yourself to learn about your partner and then implement different tactics. You know, if it was a problem for me, I could take a class or learn that, you know, kind of thing. Like these are things. If you value the relationship and that's an important aspect, you go fill that need for that person if that's your job.
Yeah, and so as you know, we can put these into like a romantic relationship, but it also shows up with your relationship with children or family members or even strangers, right? So touch can look differently if I'm touching Kyle than if I'm touching my 6-year-old son. However, it does not mean that it's not important, right? The intention of touch and how we touch does separate what it can mean for the person that's receiving it. But if it's a love language of yours and you're not getting much touch in your life, you may feel starved of some sort of, you know, attention, connection, and just a need of yours that's not being met. And so what I would challenge you to do is to go out and get a professional massage, because that's a way for you to get used to having your needs met. We get in these cycles of basically starvation where our body shuts down. I mean, and you'll see it when people go on diets, right? And the diets where you starve yourself, it's not actually good because your body's storing all the fat, right? So that it has enough energy to function off of. And so we get in this cycle of kind of just storing all our resources and not going out and getting them. And so just getting the habit of learning what it feels like to get these needs met can make a huge difference.
Yeah, and you know, this goes to a couple different aspects that we've already talked about, which is like the hierarchy of needs, you know, and asking ourselves why we're doing the things we're doing and what we're getting out of the things that we're getting from other people. And you know, once you start to really break down your priorities and values and your needs, you can start identifying how, you know, because I mean, I don't want to tell you what your needs are, but I'm sure that once you get into either a relationship with a person or a romantic relationship, you know, whatever the relationship may be, you know, you're going to get one of these things out of that person. Time, quality time is like their attention, you know, like being heard, understood, those things come with that. And that's a really critical one. You know, your friends are probably your friends because you spend time with them.
Yeah, and it's important to, so this is the deal with this. We all experience and like all of them. We have 2 or 3 that we prioritize and we prefer to receive. Now, the way I show Kyle love is not necessarily the way that I like to receive love. And that's important because the way Kyle wants to be loved might be different than the way I show love and the way I want to receive love. And what I mean by that is that our priorities might be different, right? The way I show love is based on the way my parents showed me love. And so that's what I've learned. It's a learned behavior. The way I want love is generally the opposite of what my parents gave me. So people generally want what they didn't have, right? And so it'll be opposite. It's really common for people to show love in the exact opposite way that they want to receive it. And so that's just with you. You have to understand what your top 2 or 3 love languages are, and you can decide, you know, if you had to give 2 of them up, what would they be, right? What are the 3 that you have to have that you can't live without? And this is important because once I have figured out my love languages, you know, I brought it up to Kyle, we had that conversation, and what I realized is that I communicated to him like the top 2 love languages that I will refuse to go without because I need them, right? And what I noticed is that I really needed some words of encouragement in my life on a regular basis. And I kind of got down on myself and I was feeling like really out of it and I couldn't figure it out. And when I finally recognized that I wasn't getting much confirmation, verbal confirmation and affirmation in the way that I wanted it or needed it, you know, I turned to one of my girlfriends and she gave it to me that way. And so it's a beautiful example of a balance in your life. Building a team, having a team around you that fits your love languages is important. And that's why, you know, supportive groups or hobby groups and bringing people together that might not necessarily be, you know, an intimate relationship or a deep friendship. They can still fill your love languages, and you can also show up for them in their love languages.
Yeah. Yeah,
Don't disagree, huh?
I don't disagree. I think it's important, like you talked about, you know, to learn about yourself, so that then you can start asking these questions of the people around you, that you know you're meeting their needs, and just creating this awareness and building a shared reality with the people that you spend time with, you know, creates that common ground to relate on in a little bit deeper relationship.
Yeah, it's a different aspect to look at. And when we're balanced, we get to show up better for people. And having these needs, just addressing them and understanding that it's a different way to look at your needs and your intimate relationships, it will allow you to show up better. And I will say this, if you struggle trying to figure out what your love languages are, look at what you spend money on. You know, the top 3 things that you spend money on will generally be your love languages. And if you're like, you know, softball, I don't know what that is, you can link it to whatever it's feeding back to you, right? Or what you're getting out of the environment or the group setting, or, you know, it's your job to do the work, right? It's our job to give you the information, but you cannot expect anybody to treat you or love you in a way that you want and need if you don't figure it out for yourself first. And when we're not in a relationship, an intimate relationship, it gives us the power to fill our own needs and love, because we can pay for all of these in services. You know, I can pay for touch, I can pay for words of affirmation, you know, I can get a coach, I can go and buy gifts, or I can buy boxes of services that come to me with lots of gifts, and I can buy time by hiring out and delegating certain tasks that I have. And so it's our responsibility to be happy, so we can model that behavior to other people, and so we can attract higher vibrational people in our life, right? Okay, guys, that's all.